Hey everyone, and a very warm welcome to Renaissance Gardening and Cooking. My name is Andrew. I'm out here hanging out with the chickens that are clucking around. It's a beautiful day. It's April 10th, beautiful spring day. I had to collect some eggs. I decided to have a beer and say hi to you. So today we're going to have an exciting video. Last week was all about the garden. We did a tour of the garden. I'll link to that video if you want to watch it. Very informative, and it kind of sets up a lot of what we'll be doing later in the year, so it's worth the watch. But today we're actually going to be cooking. I'm going to be making handmade Szechuan style Chinese noodles. I make these a lot, and I've had some people over who've had them, and I've shared it on Facebook with people, and I've been asked how I do it, and so I decided to make a video of that today. I'll be going over all the ingredients, the whole process, the entire thing, so from soup to nuts, you'll be able to watch how they're made and how they're served, and they are delicious. If you like this video, please do me a favor. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this with your friends, and I will see you in the kitchen. Seen here are the ingredients for one serving of noodles. Each serving of noodles serves one person. So if you'd like to have 2 people, you just double this, 3 people, and so on and so forth. So we have 3/4 cups of bread flour. Using bread flour is very important. Don't use cake flour, don't use all-purpose flour. You want bread flour to get the nice bouncy noodles. We have about 4 to 5 grams of salt. I'm using Himalayan pink salt. Any salt will do. About a half a tablespoon of water. You may need to add more water. I'll show you how stiff or soft the dough should be, and you can adjust that. Normally, a half a tablespoon is enough, and we have 1 egg. All right, once the ingredients for the dough are combined and kneaded, we're going to set it aside for about 30 minutes to absorb the water and allow it to set up so that we can roll it out. While the dough is setting up, we're going to prepare a bowl for the noodles as well as some additional ingredients that we're going to add to the top after. For the bowl, we're going to use 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. And here in the jar with the white lid, you see my homemade soy sauce. If you'd like to see how I made that, comment below and I'll be sure to make a video about that as well. Next to the soy sauce, we have dark soy sauce, which is thicker, darker, and slightly more sweet than regular soy sauce. Next to that, we have Chinese black vinegar. You don't want to substitute a different vinegar for the Chinese black vinegar because it does have a very unique flavor. You can find both the dark soy sauce and black vinegar in a Chinese market, or you can order them both from Amazon. In the front, we see an essential ingredient in much of Szechuan cooking, chili oil. I make my own chili oil and it has an amazing flavor and kick. This year I'm going to actually be growing chilies, or Chinese and Thai chilies in my garden to make chili oil out of them. So subscribe and be sure to get notifications for all the great videos to come. All right, now once the noodles are prepared, cut, and boiled, we're going to put them in the bowl with the ingredients that we had in the last video, and we're going to top that with a number of things. We have some fresh ginger and garlic. The ginger is about 8 grams and 2 cloves of garlic. You can use whatever you want. If you like a ton of garlic, dump a ton of garlic. You'll see what I mean when we get to that point. Same thing with ginger. This is kind of about the ingredients I like. I'm also going to add a little bit of bok choy, which is the long leafy greens that you see in the back. I like to add a little bit of greens actually to the boiling noodles because it helps control the steam, and I just like the succulent flavor of the bok choy. I grow bok choy in the garden. It's April, I don't have any, so this is some store-bought stuff. Directly next to that, I have some shiitake mushroom and black fungus, and if you're wondering what the heck black fungus is, if you've ever ordered hot and sour soup from your local China wok, the stuff that you probably thought was seaweed is actually black fungus. Really good, and it's really, really good in something like this. You may be wondering how I came upon getting black fungus. Well, it was a night of indiscretion, and I really don't want to get into that. I'm just kidding. I bought it at a Chinese store, along with the shiitake mushrooms, a Chinese market that is. I get them freeze-dried, and they just store forever, and then you just throw them in some water and rehydrate them when you need them. I also have in the front a scallion. We're going to cut that up. And what we're going to do with the garlic, the ginger, and the scallion is we're going to dice it and put it on top of the noodles. And then what we're going to do is the cooking oil, which is to the left. It's about 2 tablespoons of cooking oil. We're going to get that super, super hot, and we're going to dump that on there right before we eat this. And that's going to unlock the aromatics, and it is amazing. That is one of the big secrets of this dish, and you'll see what I mean. Anyone who I've ever given this to, they can't believe how amazing those freshly unlocked herbs are, not herbs, but spices, whatever, the garlic and the ginger and the scallion. It just unlocks them and it's delicious. So now on to actually preparing this dish. Okay, so our first step is to go ahead and mix up the dough. So we're going to add our flour, add our water, add an egg. Be careful not to get any shell in there, and add some salt. Now, I like to use chopsticks to do the mixing, not because I'm making Asian-inspired noodles and I just think that's super cool, but because I find that the chopsticks don't make the flour go everywhere, and I find that a fork or a whisk or anything else I use really does. So these tend to work out really, really well. And these are just little, wooden chopsticks that I got the last time I was at the Chinese market. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix that flour, or mix all the ingredients up really nice, get it as combined as I can. You can see it starting to combine as I do this. It's sticking to some of the egg is sticking to the chopsticks. And what I'm doing is trying to get as much of the liquid in the flour before I start to knead it by hand so that I don't end up with too much of a mess. So I see a little bit of salt left on the side. And it may not look like much now, but you'll see that it really does combine very nicely. And you really don't need a lot of water. It's much easier to put too much water in this than it is to put too little. And it's probably better to have a little bit too little water than a little bit too much. Okay, so now we can go ahead and mix it with our hands and get all the mixture and egg done. If a little bit of it sticks, just keep working it and that'll normally come off as you knead the dough. So you can see that it's actually starting to knead up. Okay, well for this, actually this is going to need just a little bit more water. So I'm going to grab another half a tablespoon of water. And that's what I was saying, you can actually make those adjustments on the fly as you need. All right. So we're going to add a little bit more water. Get that mixed in there. And what this should be a stiff dough. And like I said, sometimes right at the start it's sticky, but the dough itself should not be sticky. And what I'm trying to do now is just incorporate all of the flour into the dough and get the water equally mixed in. And then I'm actually going to take this out of the bowl and put it on the cutting board and give it and knead it for a couple minutes to start to get it to set up. So I'm almost there. You can see how that's gotten. Okay, so now we'll put it on the cutting board and we'll start to knead it. I got a little bit stuck to my fingers, but like I said, that'll kind of come off as you're kneading this. So I'm going to knead this for about 2 to 3 minutes. That'll help it set up. I'm going to knead it for a little bit and I'll just edit this video and I'll come back once it's done. We'll see you in a minute. All right, so I've been kneading this for a couple minutes. I also did, you could probably see I added a little bit of flour to the cutting board. I forgot to mention that, it was a little sticky. So I've been kneading this for a couple minutes, and as you can see, it's now very pliable, very soft, and very easy to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to form that into a ball. Again, this isn't critical how you get this done. All right, I'm going to put it back in the bowl. And I'm going to cover it for about 30 minutes and set it off to the side. I'll be right back. All right, so while the dough is setting up, we're going to go ahead and get our bowl ready. So everything is in teaspoon measurements. We're going to start off with 2 teaspoons, and I'm stirring this. Let's see if I can get close. The reason I'm stirring this is because there's all this goodness at the bottom of the chili oil, the homemade chili oil. It's so good. All right. So I like it a little spicy, so I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of this homemade chili sauce. All right, I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. And I have to kind of do this convoluted thing because I've never found a way really to ladle this out effectively without doing this little operation. One. Actually, each one of these ladles equals about a tablespoon, so I shouldn't worry about that. So that was 2 tablespoons of chili sauce, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I'm going to use a half a tablespoon of the black dark soy sauce. And I'm going to use a tablespoon of the Chinese black vinegar. All right, so our bowl is now ready. Now all we have to do is get the rest of the ingredients prepared, boil our noodles, and we will be feasting. See you in a minute. So one of the joys is making videos is that, you know, things sometimes don't go according to plan. I showed myself chopping all this stuff up and the camera had shut off, so you didn't see any of that, but you see it here. So I've minced up the garlic, I've minced up the ginger, I've minced up the scallion. You can see that there. It was 2 cloves of garlic, about 8 grams of ginger, and roughly, you know, that's how much I had left of the scallion. I don't like too terribly much of that. The bok choy, I'm literally just going to slice up in small pieces and add it right at the end as well. So anyway, that's that. On to making the noodles. Alrighty, well, it is time to roll out the dough. Our 30 minutes has expired and our dough has absorbed the water that we want it to absorb, and we're ready to roll her out and make some cuts. So the first thing I'm going to do is put some flour on the cutting board, get it nice and floury so we don't get the dough to stick. And we're going to actually roll out the dough about this size, and then we're going to fold it over and cut. We'll get to that though. So, okay. So there's that. Maybe a little flour all over the dough so I don't have a problem with sticking. And we're going to start to roll it out. So basically, our goal is to get this super thin. You know, like up to close to 1 or 2 millimeters thick. And if you don't know what that means, I'll show you at this, but it's going to get really thick. And you can see that because I let it sit, the dough is actually pretty pliable. I've seen a lot of people who make this kind of thing who have a much stiffer dough, and it just gets really laborious to roll it out. And I don't find that I get any more of a bouncy dough from doing that. So all I'm doing is rolling it out, and then I'm just moving it about 30 degrees just to make sure that I get a nice even roll. And once I get to the point where it's about here, I'm going to invert the cutting board just to give myself more surface. If I had more of a cutting board, I wouldn't have that problem. But this is what I have, so this is what I'm going to use. So if this starts taking too terribly long, what I'll do is just kind of take a break and get you back when I'm done. But I thought you might find it interesting how the actual rolling out of the dough goes. So now I'm going to start getting it really nice and thin. And what I'll do is I'll do it that way, give it a good flip. I'm just trying to make sure I keep it even. You'll notice I'm not using 2 hands to roll the dough. That's because if I don't hold the dough with this hand, the dough will actually just slide up the board and it won't really even roll. And I don't find that I have a problem doing it this way. So, and just to make sure that I have it even, I'm rolling it out about 3 or 4 times in each direction. And then now I'm going to actually flip it this way. So I flipped it over, and now I'm flipping it this way just to get a nice even roll. I'm just going to keep rolling that out and getting it thinner and thinner. Okay, well, I'm going to take a little bit of a break here, and I'll be back when the dough is ready to be cut. Okay, so now we're ready to fold the dough, and then we're going to cut it. I'm going to do this in 2 parts. So you can see me fold the dough in the larger view, and then I'll get kind of closer when I'm going to cut it. So what I'm going to do, incredibly important, I'm going to put some flour on both sides of the dough, because we're going to fold this up and cut it. And if you don't flour both sides of the dough properly, what will happen is it'll stick to itself, and this won't work. So throw some little bit of flour on both sides of it. And don't worry about getting a little too much. It's better to have a little bit too much in this phase and a little bit too little. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take the dough, and we're going to fold it on top of itself 4 times. All right, and I'll be back in a minute to show you how to cut it. All right, so now we're going to cut the dough. So what we're going to do is we're trying to make sure that we get it nice and thin. Hopefully you can see this. So I'm cutting it in very little thin strips. So I mean, that's as thin as I'm getting them. Because I floured both sides, the dough's not going to stick together. When we get done this, we're going to have nice noodles. You need a very, very flat knife. Actually, probably a bigger cleaver would be better for this. And this is, I'm doing this at a little bit of a weird angle for me because I'm trying to optimize the video. And you can't cut these too thin, by the way. You can cut them too thick. If they get too thick, they just get a little bit, they lose some of their delicious bounciness. So you see how thick? That one's actually a little too thick, but you'll get some of them. You know, the difference isn't really even that big of a deal. So we're just going to go through and cut all these. And I'll be back when I'm all done with that. Okay, I have finished chopping up the noodles and here they are, ready to go. If it doesn't look like a lot, remember now these are going to expand and get nice and like they fluff out a little bit and get nice and bouncy when you cook them. So this is what I would eat for one meal. I have made these and I've combined them to have them with other things. And frankly, I found that when I got done these, this would have been plenty. So if you want to make these to be a side dish with something else, you might just want to make one serving and split it between two people. It does actually make a lot, and it is pretty hearty and pretty meal, especially if you're going to throw in some mushrooms and some other things. One quick note too, because I'm doing this on video and I'm new to the video, it took me a long time to get the cutting shot set up and to make sure that it was going to work and I wasn't going to have a problem. I had a problem with my phone orientation. But anyway, I left the dough sitting folded for too long and I had floured both sides, if you remember, and that flour had absorbed into the dough. So when I cut them and then went to just sort of fluff them out, I actually had to pull these noodles apart. If you do, basically, if you go ahead and roll it out, flour it, and cut it, you won't have that problem. And fluff them out. Always fluff them out at the end. But I didn't, so I had to pull them out a little bit of a pain. But anyway, so now I'm going to boil some water and make some noodles. Okay, so while this water is coming to a boil, or while it's coming to a boil, I'm actually going to put the lid on and make it boil a little faster. I just want to talk about the liquid. I don't have a pan or a lid for this particular pot, so I'm using it from another pot. But anyway, the particular liquid I'm using, you can use water. I like chicken broth. I just find it's a lot more flavorful if you use that. Right now, I measure this out. I normally don't, but just because it's sort of a recipe, I did measure it. I have about a half a gallon of water, and I have about 2 cups of chicken stock in here. I prefer to actually just use straight chicken stock. And what I'll normally do is if we do like a whole roasted chicken, or I get some chicken thighs that I'm going to debone for like Korean fried chicken or something, I'll save those bones and just put them in the freezer. And then when I want to do this, I'll fill the pot up with the amount of water I want, take all those chicken bones, throw them in there, maybe put a little touch of salt, maybe some thyme, and I'll just let that boil for, even as little as 2 hours, but up to 4 to 5 hours. Just do that in the morning, let it boil, take the bones and everything out of there, and then you have a great liquid to actually go ahead and boil these noodles in. So once this gets to a boil, we will be ready to go. Now it's very important that when this gets to a boil, you have your bowl already ready, you have your sauces in the bowl, you have your spices ready to go, and you're ready to heat up your oil because it happens in pretty rapid succession. As soon as the noodles are done, you want to take them out of the pot, and you'll see all this. You want to take them out of the pot, throw them in the bowl, put your herbs, the garlic and ginger and scallion on top, heat the oil up and dump it and eat it as soon as possible. The quicker you do that, the fresher. You're going to see when we're boiling that I'm actually going to throw the bok choy into the in with the noodles, and I'll just take that all out in one fell swoop and throw it in the bowl, and then I'm just going to throw the mushrooms on there when I'm all done. We'll be back when the water is boiling. All right, our water has come to a nice boil, so we're going to go ahead and add the noodles. So we're just going to kind of put them in there nice and loosely. And then after we get them in there, we'll give them a stir. Now I'm going to let these boil for probably 2 to 3 minutes. And when there's about like maybe a minute and a half left, I'm going to put the bok choy in. I don't like the bok choy to get too done. I want it to remain nice and crunchy. So we're going to let that happen, and I'll be back. Okay, so our noodles have been boiling for a minute, minute and a half, boiling away nicely. You can see how they're increasing in size. They're getting close to being done. They just get so nice and bouncy. So, all right, well the noodles are pretty much cooked. I've added the vegetables. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and get ready to add them to the bowl. Okay, so I have my oil heating up on the stove. So I'm going to go ahead and get these noodles out. I'm going to get them in the bowl, top them off with my aromatics, and get ready to eat. You see I'm just literally taking them right out of the pot and putting them right on top of all my aromatics. Or right on top of all the oil that I put in there. Normally this wouldn't be such a mess, but I'm trying to kind of do it in an area different than I normally do because I'm videoing it. So this is a little less than stellar for the way it normally works. So I'm getting all the mushrooms, all the stuff out of there that I need. So now all of my oils are underneath there. So I'm going to go ahead and put my aromatics on top. We'll see if my grease is hot enough. Okay, and now comes the very important part. I'm going to take this hot oil and dump it over the aromatics. You hear that? You probably hear and see that. That is the key to really unlocking it. Okay, now it's just time to mix them up and eat. Okay, all that's left to do is to try them. So I don't know if you can see it, but I'm mixing up all that delicious chili oil and all those things on the bottom. I'm going to dribble a little bit of soy sauce right on the top of this. Not much, just a little, I mean not soy sauce, sesame oil. Sesame oil. Mix them up. So I have my chili oil in there. I can smell the sesame oil, the chili oil, the Korean black vinegar, the soy sauce. It's all so good. All right, and now for the most important part. Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good. Anyway, that is how you make handmade, hand-cut Szechuan style noodles. They're delicious, and I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you make these. And please, if you do, comment, and also comment below. Let me know what you thought of this video, the pacing of it, whether my voice was clear, the video was nice. It's all new to me, so I need to know that. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. Please click the notification so you find out about other videos that I'll be making, and I would really appreciate it if you would share this with your friends. Thank you very much. From Renaissance Gardening and Cooking, I'm going to eat.